Aja lanjut di bar. Udah, oke.
Udah mulai. Mulai ya. 1, 2, 3. Many of us have been through some kind of life-threatening or traumatic event. This traumatic event can be in any kind of experience, such as experiencing death of a loved one, domestic violence, injury or illness, experiencing sexual or physical abuse, experiencing rape, car accident, war, or natural disaster. Most people have a lot of distress after a trauma happened and begin to feel better over time. But for other people, the distress stick around and they begin to cause symptoms like flashback, nightmare, and negative thought that interfere with their everyday life. For these people, it is almost as if the trauma is still happening all the time, everywhere long after it has passed. This phenomenon is what we call post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. I'm sure you're familiar with PTSD. You have heard about it on TikTok, Instagram, or any other social media platform. In this discussion, we will explain in more detail about PTSD so that we can get to know and understand this mental disorder better. But first, let us introduce ourselves. We're a first semester student from 11 Maret University majoring in psychology, consisting of Salwa, Satria, Vika, Tata, Bella, and Uca. Even though we're just first semester student, we have a high interest in discussing this topic because not a lot of people know about this topic, and this is a really interesting topic to know and discuss. We have also been doing some intense research about this topic, and we can assure you that the material we present here are based on credible sources such as related articles, journals, and books. All right, so what is PTSD? I will explain it in general meaning. PTSD is when some memory of past traumatic event like war or sexual assault causes recurrent mental or physical distress. This is just the general meaning of PTSD. We will talk about PTSD in a specific and deeper way. But you may wondering what are the things that we are going to talk about. On this video, we are going to talk about the definition of PTSD, what's the factor that causes PTSD, what the sign and symptom to know if you or someone else get PTSD, and what the treatment for PTSD. First, we're going to talk about the definition of PTSD.
Okay, now let's talk about PTSD. According to the Asian Journal of Medical Science, PTSD itself is a debilitating syndrome that leads to personal, social, and economic consequences. PTSD is not only affect the victim of the trauma, but also the family, observer, as long as the direct and indirect participant in the traumatic event. Many studies have demonstrated a variety of disabilities relating to PTSD, including work-related impairment, somatic complaint and medical illnesses, poor quality of life, negative body image, impaired memory and intimacy, increased burden to spouse, partner or family partner, abuse social dysfunction, and suicidal tendencies. Now that we already know about PTSD in general term, I will then explain about the definition of PTSD both in general and according to some experts. First of all, I'm going to talk about definition of PTSD in general. What is PTSD in general? PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder is defined as a severe anxiety disorder that develops after exposure to one or more serious life events resulting in deep psychological trauma. People with PTSD have intense disturbing thoughts or feelings related to their experience, even though the experience has already ended. They may relive the experience through nightmare or flashback. They may feel sadness, anger, and detached from others. People with PTSD may avoid a situation or people that will remind them of their experience. Next, we're going to have a definition of PTSD according to some experts. According to Lotnik, Indaran, and Barlow, PTSD is a syndrome experienced by someone who has experienced a traumatic event. Such condition will cause psychological impact in the form of behavioral disorder ranging from excessive anxiety, irritability, unable to sleep, tension, and various other reactions. Then we have Michael Scott and Stephen Palmer in their book, trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD is a psychological effect of long-term and extreme traumatic event experienced by a person.
Okay, after we know about the definition of PTSD, let's learn about the factor that cause PTSD. The cause of PTSD are primarily concerned with how the mind is affected by the traumatic event. Because of the severe impact of traumatic event, the mind may be unable to process all of information and emotion or feeling normally. Although there are no factors that directly cause PTSD, there are a number of risk factors that increase the likelihood of developing PTSD. Factors that can cause someone to have PTSD are divided into such as internal factor and external factor. Before we talk about external factor, we're going to talk about internal factor. Number one, have another disorder. A person who already has any disorder or mental illness like anxiety disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar, can easily get PTSD. The aftermath of having a mental disorder can be affect a person in a long time and lead someone to PTSD. Number two, genetical factor. Specific genes may increase one risk of developing a mental illness, like if someone had a history of mental illness from their family according to medical record. In this situation, life symptoms can be a factor too. Number three, had a serious illness. A person who ever experienced a serious illness like heart attack, heavy stroke, or any illness that leads to the death can have a serious trauma and lead to PTSD. After knowing the internal factor that can cause PTSD, now we turn to the external factor that can cause PTSD. There are several external factors such as number one, serious accidents, number two, physical or sexual assault, number three, abuse, number four, exposure to traumatic event at work, number five, serious health problems, number six, childbirth experience, number seven, the death of someone close to you, number eight, war and conflict, number nine, torture.
So now we know the factor that causes post-traumatic stress disorder. To know whether someone has PTSD or not, I'm going to tell you have some symptoms that appear when someone gets PTSD, and those symptoms can have significant impact on someone's daily life. In most cases, some symptoms develop during the first month after a traumatic event. Next slide. General symptoms. The main of general symptoms of PTSD are psychological ones. For example, someone might be experiencing their trauma through nightmares, flashbacks, and intrusive thoughts, and this can lead to behavioral change as well. Somebody might start to avoid environment and situations that remind them of their trauma and constantly feel on guard, or they will develop executive startle responses to the smallest of the triggers. All of these thoughts and behavior can lead to trouble sleeping and general irritability, which can lead to angry outbursts. So the specific symptoms of PTSD generally fall into four categories. Those four categories will get further explanation on the next slide. Next. Okay, specific signs and symptoms. According to NHS UK website about PTSD, to be diagnosed with PTSD, an adult must have all the following symptoms for at least a month. I will give you the general description about each symptoms. The first one is experiencing the trauma and flashbacks. It can including physical symptoms such as excessive sweating or heart palpitation, bad dreams, and frightening thoughts. The second one is avoidance symptoms. Avoidance symptoms include moving away from places or objects that remind you of the traumatic experience and avoiding thoughts and feelings associated with the traumatic experience. Three, arousal and reactivity symptoms. Arousal and reactivity symptoms like mild startle, nervousness, insomnia, and easily angry. Arousal symptoms are usually constant rather than triggered by something that reminds someone of one of traumatic events. And the last one is cognition and mood symptoms. Cognitive and mood symptoms such as difficulty remembering key features of the traumatic events, negative thoughts about self and the world, distorted feelings such as guilt and blame, and loss of interest in pleasurable activities.
Okay, before we have learned about general definition, factor, causes, and symptoms of PTSD, last we will learn about treatment of PTSD. It is preferable to first undergo a psychological evaluation before beginning treatment or therapy. The purpose is to comprehend the personality, the trauma, and the impact of the trauma. This must be considered because the evaluation process can be extremely stressful and result in secondary trauma. And after following the evaluation, PTSD patient can be receive one of two types of treatment, psychotherapy or medical treatment. Okay, next. And the first treatment is psychotherapy, and there are several treatment for psychotherapy. The first one is cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT. The goals of CBT are to change the way people with PTSD evaluate their environment, thoughts, feeling, reduce PTSD symptoms, and problematic behaviors. The second is exposure therapy. Exposure therapy is a behavioral therapy for PTSD. The aims to reduce fear, anxiety, and avoidance behavior by confronting or exposing thoughts and willing to the feared situation. And the third is a movement desensitization and reprocessing or EMDR. EMDR itself to direct the patient focus to certain sounds or object movement when remembering the traumatic events. Okay, next. And the second treatment for PTSD is medication. The first one is antidepressant. This drug is used to treat insomnia and improve concentration. Antidepressant can increase serotonin so that the patient quality of life can improve and PTSD does not fall into depression. And the second is prazosin. This drug is given to treat problems related to insomnia due to frequent nightmares. And the last one is anti-anxiety. This drug is given to reduce anxiety in people with PTSD. Anti-anxiety drugs are given in a short period of time considering they are prone to abuse. Mood swings are seen after several weeks of drug administration.
Okay, after explaining the definition, factor, symptom, and treatment of PTSD, now we will present the conclusion from our presentation. Next. Okay. So, in conclusion, the definition of PTSD is a disorder defined as a severe anxiety disorder that develops after exposure to one or more stress-like event resulting in deep psychological trauma. It also has many symptoms that can interfere our daily life and tasks as well. PTSD is not like a normal stress or anxiety. PTSD caused by a long time bad experience or traumatic experience. As I said in the beginning, most people have been through some kind of traumatic event in their life. There are people that begin to feel better over time, but there is also people that still get haunted by their trauma as if the trauma is still happening. We just need you to know that it's normal to feel afraid during and after a traumatic event. This is your body's way of helping to protect itself from possible harm. But keep in mind, you can and you will overcome this afraid feeling with direct support and treatment that we have explained in this video. So, after listening to the explanation about PTSD, we should be able to understand ourselves and others who may experience PTSD so that we can maintain our mental health and know what action we can take to help ourselves and others. And the action can also be in the form of professional help.
And that brings us to the end. We would like to thank you for watching our video. Hopefully from this video, we can add new insight to each other. We have tried to make this video as accurate as possible, but we would like to apologize if there is any offending word or incorrect sources. Thank you for your attention and see you next time.